With the release of Immaculate, we've now had Sydney Sweeney in theaters for all 3 months of 2024. In January is Anyone But You, February is Madam Web, and now Immaculate. So don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. I don't mind having Sydney Sweeney on the big screen.
What do you mean by that?
What up, YouTube? This is Ground Entertainment. I'm Eddie G, and today we're going to be reviewing Immaculate, starring Sydney Sweeney. And before anybody comes crazy at me, I meant she's a phenomenal actress. That's why I don't mind having her on the big screen.
Stop the cap.
But anyways, since we're on the topic of Sydney Sweeney, let's start off with her. I think she has now shown through the course of 2024 that she can play pretty much any role. We saw her in a rom-com with Anyone But You. We saw her as a superhero. Well, kind of. But that wasn't her fault. Madam Web is a giant mess. She was one of the few bright spots. And then now we've seen her in horror, and she delivers on all cylinders in this film. There are a few scenes where I'm like, okay, this is a full Sydney Sweeney horror movie. There's a scene at the end where, you're kind of taking it back. It's a lot to handle. It's kind of overwhelming. It's not for the faint of heart. And it's part of it is because of her performance in that final scene that makes it so impactful. I had to sit there in the movie theaters for like 5 minutes, just take it all in. It's kind of, I don't want to say gruesome, but almost. And part of it was her portrayal in that final scene. And Sydney Sweeney just continues to show that she is one of the premier actresses in Hollywood right now. But aside from Sydney Sweeney, I think what really makes this movie is world building. Right from the start, from the first scene, we kind of get a look at the Covenant. We kind of see why it's not the best place. These aren't your regular churchgoers. And, they establish us in this new world. And we get a sense that, Sydney Sweeney's going to be interacting with some people who might not be as devoted to God as she thought. She's looking for her calling. She's definitely not going to find it here. They kind of, from the get-go, we kind of realize that this isn't a normal place. There's a lot of strange things going on here. That's a crucial thing for any film, is world building, because it kind of allows us to place ourselves in the shoes of our main character, and that this movie does that in a spectacular fashion. Now you might be asking, what is world building? Well, don't worry. Just come along to my classroom. This is Film 101 with Eddie G.
You should know this too.
Now, world building is a crucial aspect of any film. As you can see, this is class Film 101. We are here. World building. Any good film will have world. Okay, this is not working. World building. Any good film will have phenomenal world building. You establish the world around the protagonist. You put the audience in the shoes, and you make them feel engaged and connected to the world. I've been praising this film a lot, but it's not perfect. Act 2 kind of lingers on for a little bit too long. There's a few things that happen in Act 2 where you're like, okay, it wasn't necessary. This wasn't integral to the story. So I think, although the movie's not long at all, there was a few aspects of it that, kind of dragged along for a little bit. But Act 1 and Act 3 were phenomenal. Like I said, Act 1, they were able to establish the world that the character's going to be in. Act 3, brings a solid conclusion to the film. But, it was a solid film overall, but it is a horror film at the end of the day. And I think it was missing sort of that horror element. There was a few uneasy scenes, where you felt uneasy. But that's not horror to me. That's just, there's people who love that. There's people who are real fans of that, but that's not horror in my opinion. And that brings me to Act 3. Act 3 is when I actually felt scared, when, I felt suspense. The moments were getting very intense. One of the real highlights of the film is Alvaro Morte, which we all know him as the professor from the Money Heist series on Netflix. But, in this film, he clearly shows that he can go toe-to-toe with any actor. His presence on screen is felt even when he's alongside Sydney Sweeney, another phenomenal actress. And, his character was integral to making this film good. If he doesn't do a good job, this film flops. But overall, his performance was phenomenal. Sydney Sweeney's performance was phenomenal. And this was a solid film. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. And I definitely catch it in theaters before it's too late. Anyways, that'll be it for my review of the film Immaculate. Go catch it in theaters. Be a theater buff. Don't be a streamer. Be a theater buff. Thank you. Good night.